My name is Corey, and from a young age, I've been drawn to cross-dressing. It all started with a school play, where our teacher dressed a few of us boys as girls. I remember her handing me a pink dress and white stockings, and from the moment I put them on, I was hooked. Something about dressing like a girl just felt right to me, and I loved every part of it. For years, I kept my interest a secret, until one day my best friend, Joan, found out. Joan was different from other girls, she had a tomboyish style, and we naturally got along. I was pretty shy by nature, but around Joan, I felt completely at ease. We did everything together, and I knew I could always count on her. By the time I turned 18, cross-dressing had become almost a daily habit. I'd buy dresses and makeup online, taking advantage of the privacy I had at home. My mom worked long hours, so most of the time, I had the house to myself, giving me the freedom to dress up as much as I wanted. As time went on, I found myself wanting to go out in public while dressed up. Staying cooped up inside had lost its appeal, but the thought of being seen terrified me. I feared someone discovering my secret. So, I started working to make myself more convincing as a girl. I practiced in front of the mirror, honing my gestures and walked to appear more feminine. I even learned dance routines from popular girl groups. Gradually, I improved, and my confidence grew. But still, I only did all this when I was completely alone. My mom didn't have a clue, and I was meticulous about keeping it hidden from her. I wanted to share this part of myself with someone, but I was terrified they wouldn't accept me. One busy week in college, Joan and I were buried in assignments. She was my partner for most of our group projects, and we often studied together at my place. Typically, we'd stay in the living room since I'd carefully stashed away all my cross-dressing items in my closet, doing everything possible to keep my secrets safe. One afternoon, after finishing a group report at my house, Joan headed home. With a few hours before my mom would return, I decided to take the chance to dress up. I went to my room to get ready. Stripping down, I started by putting on a bra and knickers, then slipped into a light yellow summer dress and a pair of sheer pantyhose. To complete the look, I added a straight brown wig I'd recently bought. Skipping the full makeup routine this time, I settled on a quick touch of pink lip gloss. I had 3 pairs of high heels, and today I picked the white ones. After one last check in the mirror, I felt genuinely pleased with how I looked. Taking a deep breath, I opened my door and stepped into the living room, only to freeze in horror. Right there, standing just a few feet away, was Joan. She caught sight of me and let out a startled scream. Shocked, I spun back toward my room, paralyzed and unsure of what to do next. My heart was racing. Seeing her standing there was the last thing I'd expected. Finally, Joan broke the silence. "Who are you? What's going on?" she asked, clearly bewildered. I stood rooted to the spot, completely mortified. I knew there was no hiding anymore. She had seen me. I tried to gather myself, but I felt too embarrassed to turn around and face her. Joan spoke again, sounding confused. "Who are you? Where's Corey? Are you his girlfriend?" Her question threw me. I hadn't realized she genuinely thought I was someone else. I knew her surprise was only moments away. Summoning every bit of courage, I turned to face her. Nervously, I kept my gaze down, avoiding her eyes. She stepped closer, her voice still tense. "Why aren't you saying anything? What are you doing here?" Finally, I looked up, and I saw the shock spread across her face as she recognized me. She was stunned to realize it was me standing there, dressed as a girl. With nowhere left to hide, I told her everything. Joan sat and listened, taking it all in. We talked for what felt like hours, and to my relief, she was completely supportive, even complimenting how I looked. She explained she'd come back to grab her notebook, which she'd forgotten earlier. We laughed at the timing of it all. For the first time, I felt deeply connected to someone, and although it felt strange at first, it was an immense relief to finally share my secret. After that day, Joan and I began spending even more time together. While she wasn't particularly interested in dressing up herself, she loved helping me with my outfits. It felt like she enjoyed the dynamic of our friendship, me being the more feminine one, and her embracing a more manly role. For the first time, I ventured out in public with Joan, and it was nothing short of amazing. I wore a cute white top, paired with a blue knee-length skirt and black sandals. We spent the day at the mall, indulging in shopping, dining at a restaurant, and taking a leisurely walk in the park. I wish those moments would never end. It was simply wonderful. Joan made my dreams come true, and I was forever grateful to her. Though she remained modest about it, I could tell she truly cared. As our outings became more frequent, I also began going out on my own. With each experience, my confidence in my feminine appearance grew. I even managed to refine my voice to sound more feminine, and I decided to grow my hair long. One evening, Joan called me and asked if I'd join her on a short trip. She was attending a wedding where she'd be one of the bridesmaids. It was for an old school friend, and one of the other bridesmaids had fallen sick and couldn't make it. Joan mentioned she barely knew anyone else there, and since it was a small, intimate wedding, she suggested I go as her plus one. To my surprise, she even offered to lend me a spare bridesmaid dress, inviting me to attend the entire trip as a girl and be part of the bridal party. The idea left me overjoyed. I said yes without hesitation. It felt like a dream come true. I quickly made arrangements, letting my mom know I'd be going on a short trip with Joan. Everything was set, and I couldn't wait to experience this new adventure. The day finally arrived, and Joan picked me up in her car. I was a bundle of nerves and excitement, my stomach full of butterflies. As soon as we left the neighborhood, I started changing in the car, slipping into a white floral dress while Joan giggled beside me. I had already put on my bra and knickers under my regular clothes before leaving the house, so it was easy to make the transition. Letting my hair down, I slipped into a pair of brown wedge shoes and then applied some eyeliner and lip gloss to complete the look. We had a 3-hour drive ahead, so we stopped at a store for some snacks and drinks. As we got back on the road, I couldn't shake the amazing sensation of being far from home, fully dressed as a girl, enjoying every single moment. I felt genuinely feminine, free, and incredibly grateful for Joan's support. I knew that without her, I wouldn't have had the courage to live out these moments. It felt like the start of a beautiful new chapter in my life. As we pulled up to Joan's friend's house, my nerves started to creep back in. Sensing this, Joan looked at me and reassured me with a smile, promising it would all go smoothly and that we'd have an amazing time. I nodded, and we gave each other a quick, encouraging high five before stepping out of the car. Carrying our bags, we walked inside, where a handful of people were bustling around with last-minute wedding preparations. I felt shy as they turned to look at us, but Joan's friend Scarlett soon appeared, beaming as she welcomed us in. Scarlett was the bride, and meeting her felt both thrilling and nerve-wracking. After greeting everyone, Joan introduced me as her close friend, Mia. Scarlett led us to the cozy room where we'd be staying for the weekend. "You gals must be exhausted from the drive. Take some time to rest, and we'll catch up later," she said with a warm smile. We thanked her, and once she left, I felt the relief of being alone with Joan. I immediately gave her a huge hug, grateful for her friendship and support. She laughed, playfully pushing me away. "Come on, Mia," she teased. "We're just getting started." I grinned, feeling more at ease and excited for the days ahead. We began unpacking, and I realized just how thoroughly I had embraced this experience. I'd left all my manly items in the car, bringing only my feminine clothes, 4 different pairs of pantyhose, a makeup kit, and 3 pairs of shoes in my bag. Joan glanced at my things and laughed. "You really are a girl," she teased, making me blush. Then, with a grin, she pulled out a beautiful light yellow dress from her bag. "Look, this will make you really happy," she said, holding it up for me to see. "This is the bridesmaid dress you'll wear tomorrow. What do you think?" I gasped, barely able to contain my excitement. "Oh my goodness, it's stunning. I can't believe I'm actually going to be a bridesmaid tomorrow." My voice was filled with joy. Joan laughed at my enthusiasm. "You're not only going to be a bridesmaid, you're going to be the most beautiful bridesmaid there. And the best part, we're both wearing the same dress," she said with a warm smile. In that moment, I felt so grateful. It was as if all my dreams were coming to life, and I had Joan to thank for every bit of it. I felt my cheeks flush as I took the bridesmaid dress from Joan, unable to contain my excitement. I slipped out of my floral dress and into the bridesmaid gown, letting the soft, flowing fabric settle over me. It was a perfect fit, and as I looked at myself in the mirror, I felt a sense of beauty and joy that was almost surreal. Joan watched me, smiling proudly. "You look incredible," she said, and I could feel the sincerity in her words. Joan slipped into her own matching dress, and soon we were both in front of the mirror, giggling, striking poses, and making silly faces. It was pure, light-hearted fun, and I couldn't remember the last time I felt this free. That evening, Joan introduced me to some of her other friends from school. They were all warm and welcoming, and I was able to relax and enjoy the night, feeling as graceful as I could manage. I didn't speak much, but I found comfort in just being part of the group. To my surprise, no one seemed to suspect anything about me, and I felt that even if they had, it wouldn't have mattered. They were so accepting. I felt so grateful for each moment, silently thanking the universe for this experience. Joan and I made several new friends that night, laughing and dancing together. I kept myself from drinking too much, but Joan wasn't holding back, and as she got a little tipsy, I found myself taking care of her, making sure she had water and stayed safe. It was a fantastic night, filled with laughter and connection. For the first time, I felt like I truly belonged in this world, and it felt wonderful. We finally collapsed into bed around 2 a.m., and when morning came, I woke up first. I gently nudged Joan awake, and we both freshened up, readying ourselves for the busy day ahead. We headed to the kitchen for breakfast, where most of the friends had already gathered. Their warm smiles greeted us, and we enjoyed a delicious meal together, laughing and sharing stories. After breakfast, it was time to get ready for the ceremony. I hopped in the shower first, taking my time to shave any remaining body and facial hair. The warm water felt refreshing, and I followed up with moisturizer, making my skin feel soft and smooth. I blow-dried my hair, excitedly anticipating the transformation ahead. I put on a fresh white bra and knickers that I had picked out specially for this occasion, then slipped into a bathrobe while I prepped my makeup and hair. Joan was a fantastic help, curling my hair and making sure it was just right. I applied my makeup carefully, wanting to look elegant without overdoing it. When I finally looked in the mirror, I felt beautiful. With my wavy, curled hair framing my face, I couldn't help but feel feminine and gorgeous. I slipped into a pair of sheer nude pantyhose and then carefully put on the stunning bridesmaid dress. The moment I zipped it up, a wave of emotion washed over me. I felt like I was stepping into my true self. Finally, I finished the look with a pair of white pumps, about 2.5 inches high. I knew it would be a long day, so I chose a comfortable heel height, but I felt fantastic nonetheless. Ready for the ceremony, I was buzzing with excitement and anticipation for what was to come. Standing in front of the mirror, I couldn't resist twirling and dancing, feeling the dress flow around me. Joan laughed, watching me with pure joy, and soon she was ready too. Despite her usual preference for minimal makeup and casual outfits, today she'd put a little more effort into her look, maybe taking a cue from me. She looked stunning, and I felt a little proud that I might have inspired her to embrace a touch of glamour. We took what seemed like endless photos and videos, capturing every angle and every laugh. Then, we stepped outside, where the first guests were beginning to arrive. The yard was filling up with faces, some familiar to Joan, but most were new to me. I noticed people glancing in my direction, and I quickly realized that being dressed up as a girl in a big event brought a lot of attention. I'd grown somewhat accustomed to people noticing me when I was dressed this way. There was something thrilling about being perceived differently, about embodying Mia fully, and seeing how people reacted to her. But this wedding was a step beyond. I felt a steady stream of curious glances, and I couldn't tell if it was admiration or intrigue, but it was undeniable. My initial nerves were hard to shake, but with Joan by my side, I managed to keep calm and even started to enjoy it. After a while, Joan leaned in with a grin and said, "You're getting all these looks because you look absolutely beautiful, Mia." Her words gave me the final boost of confidence I needed. With a smile, I straightened up, ready to fully embrace the experience. Joan leaned in with a smirk and said, I think you're going to make a lot of fans tonight, July. I've already noticed a few of the groom's friends checking you out like hawks. She winked, clearly amused by the attention I was getting. I laughed nervously, glancing around at the crowd. I'm definitely feeling all those eyes on me, Joan. Please, don't leave my side, okay? I said, hoping she'd stick close. Joan squeezed my hand reassuringly. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Just look at yourself, you're absolutely the prettiest girl here. Just be yourself, all right? Her encouragement helped me relax, and I nodded, deciding to do my best to just enjoy the moment. The ceremony began, and I focused on what Joan had said, letting myself settle into the feeling of being part of this beautiful event. As time went by, I felt more comfortable, embracing the joy and excitement of the day. By the end of the ceremony, I felt like I was floating, as if I were a beautiful girl finally spreading her wings and experiencing freedom. When the ceremony concluded, it was time to celebrate. I met more people, each one adding to the warmth of the evening with friendly greetings and compliments. Every "you look lovely" made me glow a little more, and I'll admit I especially enjoyed the compliments from the guys. As the celebration continued, Joan slipped away to chat with some other friends, leaving me to mingle on my own. After a bit, I realized I needed a quick bathroom break, so I headed toward the house, slipping around to the back garden where fewer people were gathered. After freshening up inside, I walked back through the garden toward the front when suddenly a handsome guy approached me. He looked like one of the groom's friends, and he struck up a casual conversation about the wedding and his friend who'd just gotten married. I could tell he was trying to make a good impression. He was full of charming little jokes and smooth lines. As we talked, I found myself blushing, enjoying the attention in a way I hadn't expected. He had this easy confidence, and I couldn't help but smile at his clever comments. It felt wonderful, and I realized just how far I'd come. Here I was, standing in the garden in my beautiful bridesmaid dress, fully comfortable in my own skin, and enjoying the attention of someone who saw me for exactly who I wanted to be. As our conversation deepened, I felt a surprising comfort in opening up to him. He listened attentively, letting me take my time to share, which made me feel seen and understood. We started talking about more personal things, our dreams, little stories from our lives, and each word pulled us closer together. He took a small step closer, his presence filling the space between us, and I felt a thrill run through me. It was a new and unexpected feeling. I'd never thought I'd be drawn to a guy this way, but his charm and attentiveness made it easy to feel captivated. I could sense a mutual attraction building, like an unspoken connection that held its own kind of magic. I wasn't sure where the moment might lead, but I didn't want to spoil it with explanations or labels. I wanted to fully enjoy the unfolding romance, letting myself sink into the moment without overthinking. In his gaze, I felt truly seen as Mia, a beautiful girl caught in a dance of connection and intrigue. I smiled, feeling swept away, excited to discover where this adventure might lead. As he took my hand, a surge of emotions swept through me. My heart raced, and I could feel my whole body buzzing with a mix of anticipation and nerves. When he pulled me into a tight hug from behind, I was caught off guard, feeling his warmth against me. His arms wrapped around me firmly, and though a part of me thought about pushing him away, I couldn't quite bring myself to do it. There was a part of me that wanted to experience this moment fully, to understand what it felt like to be held like this. His lips brushed against my cheek, then moved down to my neck, sending shivers through me. I stood there, letting him take the lead, my mind spinning from the unfamiliar yet thrilling sensations. When he finally turned me around to face him, he looked into my eyes, his gaze sincere and soft. "You look so beautiful," he murmured, and the words sent a warm flush through me. I couldn't meet his eyes, so I looked down, feeling my cheeks burn with a deep blush. But then, as his face moved closer to mine, I felt the pull between us grow stronger. When his lips met mine, it was gentle at first, a tentative connection that quickly deepened. His hands rested on my hips, drawing me closer, and I couldn't resist any longer. I found myself hugging him back, letting the moment unfold as he kissed me. It was unlike anything I'd ever experienced, a mix of uncertainty, excitement, and a sense of letting go, letting myself feel fully alive in that embrace. Joan's voice cut through the moment like a sharp gust of wind, snapping me back to reality. I pulled away from him, startled and embarrassed, my heart still racing from what had just happened. The sudden rush of emotions was overwhelming, and I quickly realized how deep into the moment I had let myself fall. Joan stormed over, her face full of frustration. She looked at me with a mix of disbelief and anger, her voice sharp. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "I've been looking all over for you." I could barely meet her gaze, feeling the heat of embarrassment rising in my cheek. The guy, sensing the tension, awkwardly stepped back, his smooth demeanor quickly fading in the face of Joan's clear disapproval. I'm sorry, Joan," I stammered, not really knowing what else to say. The magic of the moment had evaporated, leaving behind a tangle of emotions: excitement, guilt, confusion. I hadn't meant for things to go this far, but now, standing under Joan's piercing gaze, it was clear that I had some explaining to do. I stood there, unsure of what to say, my mind racing with everything that had just happened. Joan, clearly upset, grabbed my hand and politely but firmly asked the guy to excuse us. We walked back to the front where the party was in full swing, but I could feel the weight of Joan's disappointment hanging between us. Once we were away from the crowd, Joan didn't hold back. "What were you thinking?" she scolded, her voice filled with concern. "You barely know that guy, and he could have easily taken advantage of you." I could feel the sting of her words, not just because she was angry, but because deep down I knew she was right. I had let myself get swept away, not thinking about what could have happened. I looked down, embarrassed by my behavior. "I'm sorry, Joan," I whispered, genuinely feeling guilty. She stayed mad for a while, her frustration palpable, but eventually her anger softened. Joan had always been protective of me, and I knew she was only upset because she cared. For the rest of the evening, I was much more cautious, making sure to steer clear of any situations that might get me in trouble again. Still, in the back of my mind, I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened in the garden. The feeling of making out with a guy, the unexpected rush of emotions, and the excitement of the moment. It was something I never thought I'd experience. That night turned into an unforgettable roller coaster of emotions, one that left me with a whirlwind of thoughts and feelings I'd be processing for a long time. As the party wound down and the final guests drifted off, Joan and I found ourselves sitting outside under a sky scattered with stars, reflecting on everything that had happened. I was exhausted but exhilarated, my mind replaying each moment: the thrill, the awkwardness, the connection I never expected. Despite the whirlwind of the night, a quiet peace settled over me as I sat there with Joan, knowing she had my back no matter what. The next morning we packed up, exchanged numbers with our new friends, and headed home. As the car moved along the empty roads, I stared out the window, feeling changed in ways I hadn't anticipated. The night had shown me pieces of myself I didn't fully understand yet, but I was eager to find out more. Life was already beginning to feel like a series of unexpected chapters, each more surprising than the last. Turning to Joan, I grinned. "What do you think our next adventure will be?" She laughed, shaking her head. "With you, who knows? But whatever it is, I'm up for it." And in that moment, I knew this was just the beginning.